And welcome back to the Family Medicine Rocks podcast. Can you believe it's been 45 minutes I've been talking here? So thank you, everybody, for hanging with me here. And I have gotten some live feedback here of people listening to me live. Thank you so much for that. And also thanks if you're downloading this later and listening to the podcast. I just want to give some follow-up here on a couple things. One is, show number 248, where... Dr. Glenn Stream, the president of the American Academy of Family Physicians, came on the show. I got a lot of feedback on that. Thank you so much for supporting the episode. Thank you so much for all the downloads for this. It really means a lot to me. A lot of you out there know that I really want to try to bring social media into the mainstream, especially when it comes to mainstream, family medicine, and to show the value of social media to our family medicine colleagues. And I want to thank everybody who listened to the show live, who downloaded the show. By far the most downloaded show of this show's history. So thank you so much for that. I got a lot of emails, got a lot of feedback from people thanking me for doing that. I also want to applaud the American Academy of Family Physicians. I want to applaud the AFP for taking a chance on this show to have Dr. Stream on. I don't know if they'll do it again. If they don't ever do it again, that's fine. I very much appreciate them taking a chance on this show to have him on. To talk about whatever he wants to talk about. I've extended some invitations to other AFP board members. They haven't accepted as of yet. I'm going to try to convince them to come on the show. But hopefully that this this outlet of communication. I hope that people will. Utilize more. I think that this mode of communication is going to, continue to increase in importance. I think that its value is going to continue to increase, and I applaud the organization for taking a chance on this show. There's a lot of people out there who. You got to have a thick skin when you're doing some of this stuff because a lot of people said, hey Mike, you're just a tool, and of the AFP, I don't know why you had the president on. Doesn't make sense, and you're just selling out. And you should stop doing that. You should. It really influenced the questions that you asked. You were too easy on the president. Why didn't you go after him on some of these other issues? Some other people said, "Hey, Mike, some of those questions were unfair, and you went after him too hard, and you should be nicer to the guy." Hey, you're not going to please everybody, but I appreciate all the feedback that I received about that. Hey, I was never trained as a journalist. I was never trained as a reporter. I'm just a doctor. So I'm just learning my way around this, and I know there are probably a lot of PR and public relations people who are probably pulling their hair out listening to my interview. But hey, what are you going to do? It was fun for me. That's why I did it. And, I hope that I asked all the right questions. And I hope it was valuable for all of you as a listener to check out that show. So thank you so much for that. Last week, I wrote a post about the Choosing Wisely campaign, of which the AFP was a part of, in addition to, I believe, 8 or 9 other physician organizations. And I took some heat for that. Basically, if you haven't read my post or haven't read my post, go to FamilyMedicineRocks.com and read the text in full. In full. But Kevin MD picked up the post. Thank you so much for posting it on Kevin MD, and got a lot more visibility that way. And basically the campaign is saying that, in each specialty or with a lot of the organizations, they picked 5 tests and say, hey, we should not really be doing this because it wastes money, it's unnecessary. There's a lot of data that contradicts why we're doing some of these routine tests in people without symptoms. And I agree with all of that, and I said in my post that I agree with this choosing wisely campaign. I just wanted to bring up, some other issues. For example, a lot of this was directed at doctors, and I've heard, I've listened to a lot of interviews about this. A lot of interviews from, ABIM, a lot of interviews with Eric Topol, a lot of interviews, saying that, a lot, the problem is really not with the patient, it's with the doctor ordering the test. A lot of these tests are unnecessary. I understand. I get that. But I think there has to be some education of the patient as well. A lot of these have to deal with patient expectations. And every day in my office, I see patients, pretty much every day, and a lot of it is managing expectations and saying, hey, you don't really need this test because of X, Y, and Z. And it does take time. And people are like, well, you should take all the time that you need, to educate the patient. Well, I mean, the way the payment model works is that, I have to see X number of patients to pay the bills, to pay my staff. And they said, no, it's really all about money. You people are just making too much money about this, and it's all about you. It is not really, about me. It's there's a lot of things that, I think need addressed more. It is, this broken healthcare system, this broken payment system. The way that physicians are paid is through procedures. It is not really through what they call cognitive work, meaning taking time with the patient. That is not how we're paid. We're paid if we're cutting things out, sticking things in people, and doing procedures on patients. That is the payment model. Now, I applaud, people like CMS, with this CPCI project, patient-centered medical home, that type of thing, and to see the other side of this. But the way that things are right now, that is the reality of it. That is the reality of things. I have to see patients every day. I have to explain why I cannot give you that antibiotic because it is not good for you. It increases resistance, and it's probably a virus, and people are saying, Mike, stop whining about it. Just do your job. Do your job. Tell the patient they don't need it. Well, really? I mean, they don't need it. Well, what they're going to do is they're going to leave my office. They're going to go to an urgent care. They're going to go to the ER, and they're going to get their antibiotic. That is what's going to happen. And I'm sorry if that's, kind of a jaded thing of life. But I mean, it's not just physician education. It's patient education. It's patient education, about what the expectation should be. I applaud that. Consumer Reports Health, somebody pointed out to me this week that they're starting to write stuff about this. They're starting to educate the public. These are consumer organizations, patient advocate organizations trying to get in front of this and trying to educate the patient. I applaud that. I didn't know if it was going to happen. I was doubtful it was going to happen. Now that I'm seeing that it's happening, I'm encouraged by that. The other thing that I brought up, in my post is, where's the tort reform? Where's the liability reform? Where's the malpractice reform? A lot of docs said, Mike, you're smoking something because it's not going to happen, so you should just, give up that dream of liability, malpractice, tort reform. I'm not going to give that up because that is a lot of reasons why, doctors order the test that they do. Because, as everybody says, it's not, if you get sued, it's when you get sued. And until that reality changes, this Choosing Wisely campaign, I think it's good. Is it really going to change physician behavior? I'm doubtful of it, and a lot of people said, Dr. Sevilla, with attitudes like that, it'll never change. Well, there's a lot of other things that are going on, other than, doctors, ordering these tests. There's patients, there's insurance companies, there's trial attorneys, there's all these other things, and I know that people are saying that physicians need to take leadership on this. Yes, physicians need to take leadership on this. But what about the other people? What about the other people stepping up and saying, hey, I'm a patient. I don't really need that antibiotic. I'm a patient. I don't really need that, MRI. I'm not going to demand for it. I'm not going to sue you if you don't order that test. That is what's going to happen, and I don't know. That's just what I think. Maybe people think I'm crazy. Maybe people think I'm nuts. Maybe people think I'm too cynical and jaded in my thinking now. But in talking, to some of my colleagues, here, around here and across the country, there is that perception out there, and it's got to be addressed. It's not just doctors taking the high road and saying we need to do this. So that's just my take on it. I really appreciate everybody's feedback on this. I hope it's people like me that kind of ask these tough questions and not just, and say, hey, my professional organization is doing this. We should all fall in line and do it, and I probably, tarnished some of my reputation by taking on these organizations or speaking out against these organizations. A lot of people said, when I interviewed when Glenn Stream, he was like, you're just a tool of the AFP organization. They're just using you. And then when I had this post about choosing wisely, they're like, how dare you go against the AAFP? You're a bad academy member. You're a bad family physician for going against them. You should not be doing that. So, you really can't please everybody. When you're out here, in social media, or if you're a family physician out there like me at the grassroots trying to do what's best for patients, sometimes you're going to agree with organizations, sometimes you're going to agree with physicians, sometimes you're going to agree with your colleagues, and sometimes you're going to disagree with your colleagues. And I really hope that we're in a society now where we can say, hey, I agree with you on some of these things. I disagree with you on some of these things. That doesn't make me a bad person. I hope that we can dialogue about it. I hope we can find common ground on some of these things and try to find the best solutions, not just for us as physicians, but for our patients. Glad to get that off of my chest there. We're coming to the end of the show here. Thank you so much for listening to the show. Those of you who listen live, thank you so much. Thank you people who are listening on the download, on the DL. Thank you so much for that. I hope to do this every week before the upcoming NCSC meeting. I'm very excited about that meeting coming up. Hey, look out, Akron, Ohio. I'm coming to see you tomorrow. For people in Rootstown, Ohio, I'm coming to see you next week. And for those of you in Kansas City, hey, I'm coming there in 3 weeks to talk about family medicine, social media, and I'm very excited about that. Check out the website at FamilyMedicineRocks.com. Go to the Facebook page, facebook.com/FamMedRocks. Follow me on Twitter, Dr. Mike Sevilla. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Mike Sevilla. Also check out MikeSevilla.com.